The magic rule is what? 1, 3, 7, and 21. Now, if you don't know what that is, stay to the end of the video and I'll explain what those magic numbers are to finding gold around those volcanic necks and plugs. I'm going to show you one of the dangers coming out here to these old mines. Now, he's sleeping right now, but if you look at his head, he's coiled and ready to strike. Watch where you're walking and where you're putting your hands at. Big old pipe sticking up out of the ground. You know what that's for, huh? Now, if you think you know what that thing is for, why don't you leave me a comment down below? I know what it is, but do you know what it is? All right, you can see where they're cutting into diabase right here. Diabase and basalt are similar, but that's what it looks like. It's black, fine grain, very little silica. It's in the mafic category. Now, if you haven't seen my video on identifying rocks, especially out here in the Arizona desert, check out that card right up there. Go ahead and click that, and it'll give you a brief explanation of all these different terms that I'm going to be using in the video. It's very important for you to understand this. You're going to come out here and prospect and you're going to see this in the waste rock piles. Now you can see where the quartz vein runs along the hill all the way down there. Then you can see where there's another mine down there. And what do we have in the background? That's right, that's a volcanic neck or plug. And these are like spokes of a wheel coming off. A lot of times you'll have radial vein structures coming off of these necks and plugs. Think of it coming up and as it's protruding out like spokes on a wheel. You have all these fracture zones, and then eventually those are filled with hydrothermal fluids. It's got some depth to it. Barn owl living in there somewhere. Got a little cut right there on the side. You see that? Right up there against that andesite, that green andesite. Beautiful looking vein. Look how wide it swells out. It gets up to about 6-7 feet wide. Now, I already went ahead and I ran this particular mine site through minedat.org and of course through the MRDS. If you don't know what those are, you really need to research that. I'll leave links down below so you can check it out. But as this mine and the other mines on this particular vein structure went down, values got richer because as they come up to the surface, a lot of the mineralization is leached out. A lot of this stuff on the top is referred to as bull quartz. It's not worth anything. And this one and the ones along this structure at the very lowest depths reach 3 ounces per ton. And that's native gold too. That's not sulfides. And look at this stope over here. This is what I'm talking about. See where they went ahead and they stoped out that entire vein structure? There's the hanging wall, and that's the foot wall. Hanging walls you can always tell because they're slanted in, and foot walls are slanted away. But this one's got some good depth to it. There's another one up the way that's got even more depth and they pulled out even more gold. All right, I'm gonna show you a simple way to sample for free mill gold in these hard rock mines, and then I'll cover other techniques if you guys want to get more involved and more in depth in it, if you plan on working your own hard rock mine. All right, this is the first clue. See that? Most people think it's just a wooden post in the ground. It's not. That's important for when you're going to be sampling these hard rock mines. This is part of an old trestle system. Now, if I have a mine right there and I need to get my waste rock over here, I need to build a bridge, a trestle if you will. And most of your mines that are on the sides of hills or in the mountains, they'll build a trestle from the portal or the shaft entrance, the collar, out and away. And they'll slowly start dumping and dumping and dumping until they get to the very end of that trestle. When they do, they'll build another trestle. This is the end of a trestle right here. And there's posts like this all over because you can see where they ran it out so far, stopped, built another trestle, so on and so forth. There's another one right here. The second post is gone. Why are these important? Why am I telling you this? It's real simple. Because when you go to sample these mine dumps, you're gonna need to know where they stopped. That will be the lowest point. Remember what I told you about the quartz that's towards the surface on these fissure filling vein structures? A lot of it towards the surface isn't going to have any values in it. It can, but most often it doesn't. It's already been leached out over thousands if not millions of years. So you need to go down. If you want to come out here and see what they were getting, you need to go to the end of the run that they were digging when they were down in that shaft or inside that adit. You're going to go to the very ends of these guys and you're going to trench sample. What you're looking for is indicators. A lot of this quartz out here is milky white and has no mineralization in it, so it looks like waste rock. But if you see any reds or browns or dark staining inside of that material, then you know you're on a winner. So here I got a piece of trachite, which is in the andesite family. There ain't gonna be nothing in that. That's the country rock out here. Here I got some porphyry, which is altered andesite. Basically what's happened is hydrothermal fluids have come in and they've altered it into this. You're gonna see a lot of that in waste rock piles. Sometimes gold will be in there. You can't see it, but there's actually a dike that's coming off of this guy a feeder dike, as they call it. There's actually several of them that come in the area, and that's important because it heating up those fluids and getting them to circulate. That's very important. You got to get that fluid on the move. As it goes through, it saturates the rock, and it can either fill in the voids with mineralization, or it can actually pull it out of the rock and carry it along with it. So it's very important to have some type of a system that heats it up. Feeder dikes are great for that, and you'll see that a lot in depositions. What I like to do is I like to go to the very ends of the trestles, and I'll do a trench straight across. And I'm going to do that today. I'll trench here, I'll trench there, anywhere it looks like it's at the end of a run. Now you don't have to go very deep. Maybe a foot is the most you have to do. You see this basaltic material that came from the dike system radiating off of that volcanic plug. I really don't think there's gonna be any gold in here, but I have seen systems like up in Washington where the gold was found right up against those basaltic dikes, if you will. Now most of the time I'll put bags in between, sandbags, to differentiate where I'm pulling this at. But if I'm just going out to do a quick grab sample or trench sample, I'll just throw it all in one bucket, and then I'll mark the bucket where it came from. And if I find any values whatsoever, then I can go back and be more specific about it. You can tell it's an old mine. Look how small that hole is. And look at the pattern. While you're around the portal of either the adit or the shaft around the collar, look for their high-grade piles. Now, if the mine was small enough and didn't have an ore bin, chances are they would sack it up right there at the portal or the collar of the shaft. It'll be easy to spot because you'll see a pile of rocks that don't look like they belong there. And what you're gonna do is called a grab sample. You're just gonna grab a couple of the rocks that look like they have the most mineralization in them, and you can take those back, crush them down, and check to see if there's any values in that. Especially if the mine shut down prior to World War II because of Executive Order L208. That means that the ore never got a chance to make it to the mill, which is good news for you. To make things profitable, it has to be 1 ounce per ton or higher. If you're in it just for fun, then you can go down as far as a 1/4 ounce per ton. You see where I have a basaltic dike? Right here. Let's see how many of you out there can figure this out. What is that? I've got fragments of andesite in there. See that? Sharp, angular fragments. What do you think that is? Now, I know most of you are gonna say, oh, Jeff, that's caliche. It's not caliche, Sonny Jim. Here's another dike right here. Now, I'm showing you this right now because right here, this is a good spot to find gold, placer gold, in these little nooks and crannies right in here. You see that? This would be a great place to run a vac pack. Anywhere where it's rough and angular like this, the gold can get stuck in these little tiny fractures. And this is perfect because it's running perpendicular to the wash. So as the gold is flowing over, it gets stuck while the lighter material or the flow sand blows on by. So these are great areas to check. And if you're a good prospector like I know you are, you should already know all this stuff. But I'm just going over it for the people who might not be familiar with it. Now, if you know where these steps go, leave me a comment down below. Somebody put a lot of work into these steps. Look at that. What is that? Look at all those basaltic flows right above my head. Now, look at this, right out of the rock. Isn't this cool? Oh, look at that, all that water. Oh, look inside, I got, looks like goldfish are in there. Yeah, look at that goldfish. Right there, see him? There's that goldfish. Got a whole bunch of water seeping out of the rocks back behind me. There's a natural aquifer inside of this mountain. It comes out right here, and somebody has taken the time to build up this wall, or retaining wall, so the water can seep out. And then the water fills up that little pool right there, and somebody's populated it with some type of goldfish. I'm gonna go teach you some more geology, so keep them pants on, okay? You see that formation over there? Right there, you see it? That's called ash flow tuff. Basically, that's the ash that came out of this volcanic system, this ridge here, there's a fault underneath us. That came out first, so it's lowest. And you can see how it's soft and it weathers away and leaves all those pot marks and cave. And sometimes you'll actually see fragments of the surrounding country rock locked in there from the initial explosion. So that was pyroclastic flow at one time, and you can see all the different layers or bedding planes of it. All right, I know, get on to checking out what's in that bucket, huh? Well, I want to teach you some geology along the way. I think it's important. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get at the lowest contact zones of that old channel and any bedrock that we can find. I don't see any bedrock. but we'll sample the best we can. Then we'll take that with us and pan it out. So let's get up there and take a look. This is the bottom of the contact zone right here. And then you got this really fine material. So this was laid down onto that. This, what drift mining is all about. You get under these old tertiary channels, river channels. They call them tertiary channels because of the time period that they were in, the tertiary period. What they do is they would cut down through all this material and they would try to get down to the very bottom, the bedrock, where this is sitting on. Gold is always going to find its way down to the bottom because it's so heavy. It's 19.3 times heavier than water, and it'll settle down. I'm going to scoop out real quick right here at the very bottom of the contact zone. And that's what you should be doing too if you find these old river channels, whether they're out in the middle of the desert or if they're in California, because California is known for them. That's what the old timers were using, the monitors that you see. And what they were doing is they were washing away tons and tons of ash flow that was sitting on top of the old river channels. That's why they were doing that.
The miners fired enormous blasts of water against those old riverbanks and let them roll down through their sluices and over the riffles, carried by this new man-made river. All this was made possible by the invention of a single piece of equipment. And here it is, the key to the whole solution, a water cannon, fashioned after a Civil War artillery piece. These cannons were called monitors, and this particular type was affectionately called the Little Giant. This Little Giant was first built for the Omega mine nearly 100 years ago, and is still being used today by Bill Wilson. It weighs 1.5 tons, and yet one man can make it move as gracefully as a ballet dancer. The trick lies in the ball joint up front that holds the nozzle. The power to direct the cannon up and down and from side to side comes from the backlash or counterforce of the water jet blasting out of the nozzle. As Bill Wilson moves the rods that aim the nozzle, the water stream is deflected, moving the cannon in whatever direction Bill wants it to go. Because of this ingenious power source, Bill can operate this entire hydraulic mine alone. The whole operation, of course, depends on getting a powerful head of water going through the cannon. The water jet that comes through this monitor throws a punch of 5,000 pounds. That's 2.5 tons. It could demolish a building or cut a human being to ribbons. In 1 minute, it throws out 16,000 gallons of water, about equivalent to the capacity of 1.5 railroad tank cars. In 24 hours of operation, this one monitor can move 4,000 cubic yards of gravel down the bank and through the sluices of a cleanup block they smelted from the hydraulicking of 1 month, January 1882.
And then once they got down to the river channels, they'd hit hard pack. They'd wash that down into these giant sluice boxes. Now, if the hard pack is down there long enough, it'll actually turn blue, have like a blue hue to it. And that's why the old timers used to call it the blue lead. But it's super tough. You got to literally drill and blast, or if you got a hose that can put out 10,000 pounds of pressure. Now, I didn't bring another bucket, so I'm gonna have to use the gold pan. Look at that. Ooh, nice looking material. This is very similar to what we're doing in the drift mine. You hope they don't collapse. All right, that's enough. Just a sample. All right, let's go pan it out and see what we got. Nice big one, look at that. Ooh, that might even be worth sampling. I got some green schist up there. See the green schist? Right there. Here's a nice vein right here running in between the green schist and that granitic rock. And I see reds and pinks. Let's talk about basalt again. Basalt has a fine grain mass because it cooled rapidly, more so than diabase, but they're very similar in their same family. But the point is this, is if you find dikes of basalt, or even column basalt, look for intrusions next to it. That could be granite, granite diorite, serpentine. You want to look at the contact zones of that basalt and that particular rock type. Why is that important? Because it's at these contact zones where you can find mineralization. And of course, mineralization means the potential for gold deposition. So that's why it's important, why I'm covering basalt and diabase so much. And a good example of that is up in Washington State around Liberty. So, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link down below.
Crack the mysteries of the earth. Discover the energy that drives a planet and builds mountains. Uncover buried treasure and see what makes mountains blow. Find out what shapes the top of the earth and explore the secret world below. With me, Nick, on the rocks. Barely half an hour from Ellensburg, Rob Reppin is still finding gold in a mine more than a century old. I met him when he took one of my classes that's open to the public. It turned out that my student also had a lot to teach me. He gave me a tour of the old mine he's been reworking.
This is some of the work of the Chinese miners that were in here 100 years ago.
No kidding.
The Chinese were, for the most part, better, probably more diligent than most, white miners.
Very impressive work.
So conditions, although they were outstanding miners, the conditions were pretty tough. They were in here with candles.
And you're looking for stuff left over by the old timers.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time just cleaning out some of their old tunnels because we figured they left about 25%. We will break this bedrock up and get to the bottom of any cracks that might have gold in.
So there's not gold everywhere here.
Our pay layer is 2 feet above bedrock and 1 foot into the bedrock. The rest is all waste material. It doesn't pay to try to process it. And of course, all the good heavy stuff is on the bedrock or in the cracks of the bedrock. Red, white, and blue. Red is the basalt intrusive.
Okay.
White is the calcite and or quartz. And blue is the bluish black shale. Those three, in very specific conditions related to each other, will precipitate out the crystalline wire gold. All the gold in Liberty originated as wire gold.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Where is the gold coming from?
The solution is coming from way deep. Gold has an affinity for carbon.
So why do we need the red? Why do we need
That's
that
the heat
basalt?
source.
So the gold is being moved by hot fluids along the
Originally.
margin of that basalt.
Originally, yes.
Now, on a side note, green schist is green because of the amount of chlorite that it has in it, and it can also have epidote in it, which leads to it being green. Now, in my other videos, you probably heard me talk highly about chlorite. Gold deposition in green schist because of chlorite. And you'll find the gold deposition in the foliation of the metamorphic rock. But that's for another subject. And no, I haven't forgot about those numbers, 3, 7, and 21. Actually, it's 1, 3, 7, and 21. Those are the magic numbers that we're gonna talk about at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. So we're gonna do this one first. This is the material that came out of that tertiary channel. Then we'll do this one second. I've already got a tub of water here. Don't forget the jet dry. The reason why is that jet dry will break up the surface tension of this water. And it'll keep that gold from floating on top, the superfine gold. And I know you guys are waiting for it, so I'm gonna say it. And yeah, you're gonna get wet. Now, I'm not gonna classify this first one, I'll classify that one. Remember how I taught you the gold pan? Stratify your material. Man, I might have to tilt that. Get some more water on the other end, like that. There we go. Like you're kneading dough. Lightly wash it out. Now, I don't know if there's going to be anything in this, and I'll tell you some more details about it later. All right, here we go. Getting down to the nitty gritty. Get that out of the way. Oh yeah, there's gold in there. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it. See those little specks right up in there? Isn't that nice? Not a lot, but that's a good indicator right there. Tap that up a little bit. Couple specks in there. Not too shabby, huh? And yeah, I haven't forgot about the 1, 3, 7, and 21. This guy right here I'm gonna classify because I got some really big chunks in there. Make sure that gold pan is clean in between your samples. Don't want to cross-contaminate from one sample to the next. I've seen a million guys do it out there, even guys who've been doing this for a long time, seasoned prospectors. I like to classify wet. And I suggest you do the same thing. It makes it so much easier. Look at all that beautiful quartz coming out of there. See that? Next one. I like taking the classifier and rotating it back and forth. It helps sift the material down. Man, that is some heavy material. And I've also noticed that when I go riding around out in the desert, all the gold drops to the bottom of this 5-gallon bucket. Now, I've seen a lot of guys, they'll pan the top, they'll get frustrated because they don't see any gold. They throw the rest of it out thinking no gold in that bucket. Gold is funny that way. Give it just a little movement, it'll drop to the bottom of anything. All right, I think that's a full pan. What do you think? Couple chunks. Missed a lot of chunks. Look at that. Now, real quick, a lot of people ask me, Jeff, why do you guys classify before you gold pan? Density and displacement. If you have two objects in your gold pan that are the same exact size, one is gold and one is just country rock or overburden. If they're the same size, because of gold's density, it'll displace everything else when you wash it around in the pan. It's 19.3 times heavier than anything else in that pan. So what happens is when you stratify the material, shaking the pan, all the heavies like gold and black sand drop to the bottom. The lighter material, if it's all the same size, when you go to wash that material out, this will easily come to the top and float right out, and you'll wash it out. Everything that's heavier will stay down on the bottom. That's why you classify before you gold pan. If I have a little tiny speck of gold and I got a big rock in there, imagine how much water it's gonna take to move this rock when I'm gold panning. And this gold will easily be washed away by that much force that I'm using to wash out all the overburden. So that is why you classify. I know, get on with it. Now I'm working with lode gold, so I'm gonna need a jeweler's loupe, but let me do a quick inspect. Yep, I got gold. Oh, there's nothing like seeing gold in the pan. Hold on. Real tiny gold. I got one little speck there where my finger is, and I got one little speck there where my finger is, and there's a little tiny one there. When you're inspecting lode gold, always bring a jeweler's loupe with you. I like using it 10 times. You don't need anything stronger than that, because sometimes you won't be able to see it with your naked eye. Now there's little tiny pieces of gold in there too that I couldn't see with my naked eye, but I can see with my jeweler's loupe. All right, now I know you're chomping at the bit and you want to know, Jeff, what is the deal with 137 and 21? It's real simple. When you're looking for any type of lode deposits in volcanic zones, especially out in Nevada where you have a lot of epithermal deposits, I want you to localize some of your volcanic shields and cones. And then I want you to draw a circle around it, and then from that go out 1 mile, 3 miles, 7 miles, and 21 miles. Overlay that map with a geological map, and you're gonna look for any type of intrusions that are in those zones. You're looking for anything that has to do with granite or granodiorite or serpentine. Just take my word on that. 1, 3, 7, and 21. And sometimes they're gonna be inches below the surface. So take a good quality VLF out there so you can scan, because it's gonna be able to pick up things just below the surface that most people have missed or walked over. I want you to smash that like button, smash it hard. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already, because I notice a lot of viewers out there, they watch the video, but they don't subscribe. So go ahead and subscribe. That really helps our channel grow. We got a new shirt in stock, and the fabric on these is fantastic. All right, let me know what you think about the new shirt. All right, let me get out of here.